For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber. Instant analysis of the Tuesday practice that's really a Wednesday practice because, of course, it's a Friday game, so everything gets moved up. Injury updates, Ronald Jones and Keely Eure practice. Of course, Ronald Jones practiced yesterday. Also, Helton announced that Deontay Burnett will play on Friday. They're just being cautious with him.
Right. He was asked, well, what if Deontay doesn't play? Because it was the second straight day where he's, in a headband and that's it. No shoulder pads, no, just, out there kind of observing. And Clay said, we're just being cautious with him. I mean, it's just, they're just not going to push him and let him come back. And they don't think, he needs to, work. He'll do stuff tomorrow. But this was a good week, actually, for him to get a little bit of a break. And then there's the final piece of maybe the injury puzzle. And the first time we've heard this is when we saw him on the bike and riding the bike, Daniel Amater Baby. And because I asked the question, are you thinking about getting him to a consultant? What's the situation? And Clay said no. Said he's making progress. We've got a calendar. We're looking for a couple of weeks. So, we kind of have information there that we haven't had for the last 6 weeks, I'm guessing, something like that.
We got to talk to the defense today. Obviously, Wazzu is a very pass-happy team. And against Cal, we saw USC go to the dime, 6 DBs. We kind of asked, will we see that more on Friday?
Yeah, and you preface that by saying, I don't want a scouting report, and we don't want to give a game plan away. And he said, I talked to Matt Lopes, he's kind of was the 6th guy, and he's sort of a coach back there. And he said, well, they're a very different team. Cal and Washington State are different teams. He said, but they both like to pass it a lot. And will defend the pass. He said, you can make that, make of that what you will. He said, they'll find out what we're going to do Friday night. But he wasn't going to say what they're going to do tonight, nor should he. But I think they were really pleased at how they adapted to the dime package and the 6 DBs and having Marvell Tell move up to linebacker. I think they thought they really handled this well. I mean, one of the difficulties of installing something that's fairly new is just that adjustment time. Now, Matt Lopes said, this isn't a big adjustment because we keep the same principles. And it's not so much we're adjusting to them, we're just modifying what we do to make it more as effective as possible. But he said we've really put in a lot of extra time. We spend a lot of time in the coaches' offices. We spend a lot of time going over film. He said, I think we've convinced Clancy that he can do this with us because of, and he's told us this, because of how much film study they put in and how much time they spend with the coaches off the field, that they can do things and adjust on the fly like they did last week. And I think they're real pleased with a lot of the way the Cal game went, especially in the second half when they went ahead and said, we're going to do some different stuff and see how it works.
Christian Rector was a guy who was singled out by Helton in his presser today. He said that leading up to when Christian Rector had to take over, he was practicing like he was going to be a starter. And now that he is a starter, you can see how that paid off.
And that's exactly what Christian has always said, is that I practiced like I was a starter. I believed I was a starter. I practiced like I was a starter. That's a hard thing to do. I said, now that you're a starter, what do you think? And he said, it's different being a starter. He said, it's kind of, as much as you practice, he said, the thing that's different is now you have on-field, real-time game experience. He said, there's nothing like that. No matter how hard you practice, you can't take the place of actually being on the field and getting that experience, which he's now getting. And he's just thrilled to death that he practiced the way he did, and he's even more thrilled now that he's getting a chance to be on the field and put that into practice. But it's a great story. He's a great story.
Saturday at Cal was a little bit of a different experience for Ronald Jones. He stayed home and he watched the game, and he told you it was definitely different for him.
So it was the hardest thing he's ever done. And then he threw this and he said, I know why people now they say to me, you give us a heart attack while they're watching the game. And he said, I'm sitting there thinking they're giving me a heart attack watching the team. He said the hardest thing was, he said, if you're there, you know what the play is called and you know what to look for. He said when you're not there, you're not sure what play they called, and you really are like, what's going to happen? What are they doing here? So he said he does not think he's going to try to ever be injured and miss another trip. He said it was just too hard.
You got the fan experience. We noted yesterday Darnold looked a little off. His accuracy today was a little off too. Any updates on what you've seen from Darnold?
You know, it's different. It's not where it's just so obvious or it's 100%. He'll have some, throws that you say, gosh, I don't know if we saw that last year, or sometimes where you think it's all arm and maybe he's not coming through with his lower body. And then they'll go down and first 11 on 11 play, and he threw a 40-yard strike to Trojan Sydney that you can't throw a better pass than that. So I think he's dealing with something that, that it's not real obvious, but I don't think he's 100%, and I don't have any idea. I mean, I don't know. And I don't want to make this sound like it's some big deal. I just think he's kind of fighting through something. And one part of that is how they're defending him and doing just crazy stuff and different stuff and selling out and things you wouldn't maybe necessarily expect people to do. But the second part of that is I just don't think he's absolutely 100%. And I think he's got some limits that it might be just something that you just work your way through and you tough your way through it. And you don't give in to it, and you don't complain about it. You just do it. But I just don't think he quite looks like. I mean, we've got this picture of Sam Darnold in the Rose Bowl. I mean, it's like, holy crap! That guy, he's as good as you can be in college football. And I think he's had to work at it hard. He's had to work through things, and the accuracy. Where last year you got the sense, see the man. Hit the man. It was just boom, boom, plays over. The ball's there. It doesn't look like it happens that automatically this year. Whatever that is, I don't know.
You and I noticed last week how it was kind of low-key at practice as a whole. How would you assess how this week went?
It's louder. People would come in off the street and say, hey, they're making more noise. I thought, I was on a phone call right when they started practice, so I'm outside, and I'm thinking, they're making more noise. This is a little bit, so I think last week was a little bit more, let's just kind of get through it, and this week is more, we know what's going to go, Friday. I mean, it's a late start on the East Coast at 10:30 and all that, but it is the only game on, and anybody in college football will probably be watching that game. So it's like the old Monday Night Football used to be in the NFL when everybody watched the game and everybody wanted to perform. And I think that's some of what's maybe going to happen Friday, that they're really looking forward to being part of, as Chris Hawk says, Friday Night Lights.
Mm-hmm. I'm putting you on the spot now. How do you think it goes on Friday? What's your prediction?
That's just the question President Nikias asked twice.
Your buddy Nikias?
My buddy Max. How do you think they're going to do Friday night? I think they're going to play pretty well. I thought they were going to play well against Stanford. I had no idea what they were going to do last Saturday. So this one, I think they have a tendency to be able to respond to what happened last week, this week. So I think they're going to play pretty well.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's going to wrap it up for Wednesday practice on a Tuesday. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.